And begin. We're going to start with roll call. Commissioner Gower.
Here.
Commissioner Rosales.
Here.
Judge Shaw is here. Commissioner Schindel.
Here.
Commissioner Hummel.
Here.
County Clerk's Office. Here. And we're going to please stand and join us in opening prayer and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance to make the best decisions for Karnes County. Please lead us in the right direction in what we do today. We also ask that you be with our friend Gilbert Garza and his family during this time. We ask that you bless our troops wherever they may be, and please bring us rain. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 5 on the agenda is citizens to be heard.
I didn't have anyone sign up.
Number 6 is it's a presentation and update by Todd Flanagan, project meteorologist for the South Texas Weather Modification Association on cloud seeding operations in Karnes County since 1998. And that's Mr. Flanagan. Go ahead, sir. What do we do? Why don't we keep it that way so we can see it?
Okay. What do you think?
I know.
We need to turn the light out.
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
I think it's outside the door. To your left. Your other left. There you go.
All right. I want to thank you for having me here at the County Commissioner's Court. Please bear with me. I have a very serious cold, and I may cough a little bit here. I'm actually burning up right now, so just get going here. It's surprising to me sometimes to find that a lot of people don't realize that there's been a weather modification program in South Texas for the past 13, 14 years. In fact, there's 2 projects going on. There's one that involves Karnes County. There's another one further to the west. I'm just going to give a brief overview of what we do and what we've been doing for the past 13, 14 years. This list here, since the 1990s, we've had numerous weather modification projects within the state. Listed here are the projects that either are going on or are not. The ones in red no longer exist, and the year in which they formed. So currently there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's actually 6 programs going on. The West Texas Weather Mod program started in San Angelo in '96. There's actually been several projects there from the late '70s up to current, but the current association, the WTWMA, formed in '96. The South Texas Weather Modification Association, the program I'm involved with, formed in 1997, and then there's several others. The Edwards Aquifer Authority program is actually absorbed within 2 programs in South Texas, the STWMA and the adjacent project along the Rio Grande. So there's been many efforts to get cloud seeding going on within the state. Now, this is a map, I think about 2003. There were as many as 12 programs going on within the state. And at this time, state funding was provided, so whatever the different associations could put up for money, the state matched. But this ended about 2004, 2005, so some of these programs which were just getting started could not continue because they could not afford the resources. And as a result, currently, this is what we're left with as far as weather modification programs. But you see, it's mainly over central and the western half of Texas where rainfall is less than say, over the east or southeast, where they get a lot more influence off the Gulf. But it's not just here in Texas that there's been weather modification. All these spots here in the central and western United States have weather modification programs going on. In Texas, it's all primarily rain enhancement, in other words, trying to increase the rainfall over the area. In North Dakota, it's rain and hail suppression. Severe storms that produce hail, they seed them in order to reduce the size of hail. And then a lot of the western states actually have snowfall enhancement programs. California notoriously has had programs probably for about 50 years in the Sierra Nevadas. And it's been pretty successful. Pacific Gas and Electric has been funding these programs there for a long time and will continue to do so for the time being. As far as the project I work for, South Texas Weather Mod Association, it's a collaboration of different water districts which first got together in 1996. The first year of seeding began in 97. Basically, we're open year-round to do cloud seeding in a 7-county area in South Texas, basically from south of San Antonio down to north of Corpus Christi. And in 2002, the Edwards Aquifer Authority had a contract with us where we do seeding up around the San Antonio area between May and September. And our goal is to enhance convective rainfall over the area. Well, how do we go about doing this? Basically, we will use a plane to put the material in the cloud. You can either fly at the base of the cloud or you can fly at the top. We conduct base seeding exclusively because the planes required to do that, they're not as expensive. If you want to do top seeding, you need a twin-engine plane, and that's a lot more expensive as far as maintenance and such. So we do base seeding exclusively, and essentially, if you kind of see in the background, there's a cloud there. That would be an ideal candidate. In fact, that was a seeded cloud. The plane will go up, fly around the cloud base, and he's looking for inflow, or the air rushing into the cloud. We need at least 300 feet per minute of inflow in order for the seeding to be effective. So once the pilot locates this area, then he will start igniting flares. They just kind of look like bottle rockets. But the flares contain silver iodide or calcium chloride, just depending on the type of cloud we have. That material gets carried through the updraft into the upper part of the cloud, and then after that it goes to work, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we use silver iodide when we have clouds that have a large portion of the cloud below freezing, but maybe not much ice. We're trying to increase the ice within the cloud. Calcium chloride, which is a salt, we want to use that in clouds that are primarily warm. In other words, the temperature's above freezing throughout most of the cloud, and we're trying to increase the droplet growth within that cloud. Now there's a picture of some of the planes that we use. They're single-engine Piper Comanches, and this is from our site in Pleasanton. This is where we're based out of. And we do have a twin-engine plane. We have this primarily to conduct seeding at night if conditions warrant. We don't always have the right setup for cloud seeding at night. If we have a lot of low stratus clouds, we can't fly. But when we have clear skies and isolated storms, then we can use this plane. This is a picture of the flare rack, and those are what the flares look like. These are the silver iodide flares. We have 38 of them on each wing, so 76 total. So that can last us, we can see several clouds with those flares. Now, essentially, we're looking for a cloud that looks like this. It's in the growing stage, maybe something prior to a thunderstorm. We want a cloud at least about 10,000 feet thick from the bottom to the top of the cloud. And ideally, because we primarily use silver iodide, we want the upper portion of the cloud to be below freezing because we're trying to produce ice in these clouds. So in this case, in this schematic, the two methods, bottom and top seeding. In top seeding, you actually fly right through the cloud. We don't really do that. We just fly around the base of the cloud. We don't penetrate the cloud. That's not our goal. We're just looking for the updraft or the inflow in order to conduct our seeding. But everything that we're going to do is going to impact this portion of the cloud initially. Now again, this was the background picture. This is actually a seeded cloud just south of Pleasanton I think it was about 9 or 10 years ago. But essentially this fits. The upper portion of this cloud is below freezing. The seeding was done. This is a very small shower, produced a few lightning strikes, but this is not very large. And this particular cloud produced 2 inches of rain over Christine. Now, when the pilot, one visual aid that he has when he's looking for the inflow, there will be a little portion of the cloud that sticks out. It's called a shelf cloud. It's formed at the interaction between the updraft and downdraft in the cloud. When he locates this area, he knows the inflow is very close. So this is where he's going to conduct his seeding. And that's sort of what it looks like. It's a very smooth looking cloud that slopes upward into the main parent cloud. Here's another example. And here's an example of one of the flares burning. You don't have to be right up against the cloud. These inflow areas can extend outward a couple of miles. As long as you're in that river of air, you know you're going to be seeding the cloud. This is an example. This is a picture of one of the salt flares. These burn very, very bright. You will be able to see these from the ground if the plane is flying at 5,000 to 6,000 feet, even in the daytime. They're extremely bright. So once the material gets into the cloud, what happens? As far as silver iodide is concerned, the ice crystals begin to grow. In the cloud, it's going to be very moist. Obviously, that's why the cloud is there. So the particles will start to form ice crystals. The water vapor in the cloud will become attracted to these particles and start forming ice. Again, at the point in the cloud, we're trying to affect the temperatures below freezing. So we're creating ice crystals. And we want to grow ice because ice grows faster than water droplets. So if we can get a whole lot of ice crystals to form, they will grow into snowflakes. Once they get too big, they start to fall through the cloud. They'll run into each other, break apart. You have more ice crystals. They, in turn, grow as well. Eventually, these snowflakes are going to be too heavy and fall into the warm part of the cloud where they melt and become raindrops. This is essentially the premise behind seeding with silver iodide. And again, we're trying to impact this part of the cloud, ultimately, which will produce more rain in the lower portions of the cloud. Now, with the salt seeding, a lot of times down here, because we're close to the Gulf and we have more of a tropical influence, we tend to have clouds that don't always have a portion below freezing. So we want to increase the droplet growth within the cloud. So the salt particles act in that manner. They will start to produce very large drops within the lower portion of the cloud. Some of that will rain out, but what we want to have happen is some of these droplets to get carried through the updraft into the cold part of the cloud, where they will freeze and break apart and form more ice particles. And again, then the ice process takes over. But with hygroscopic or salt seeding, we end up actually increasing the droplet size within the cloud. And this has been observed by flying. We have, well, we don't have, but there have been projects where cloud physics research planes have flown through and actually measured the change in the droplet size after seeding. Now, all clouds cannot be seeded. As I explained, we want these deep clouds, at least 10,000 feet thick, the cumulus clouds, the ones you know are going to produce rain anyway. We're not trying to produce rain out of nothing because we know we can't. We're trying to just increase the efficiency of the clouds that are producing rain to produce a little bit more. As a result, we're limited in what we can seed. Now, these cirrus clouds, this is all ice. So this we're not going to do any seeding with. And same thing with this, altocumulus clouds. They're very high up in the atmosphere. They're not going to produce precipitation anyway, so we're not going to seed these. Stratus clouds actually can be seeded if they're on the ground as fog. There are some airports that actually will seed fog banks and try and get it to drizzle out, or if it's below freezing, it will snow out. Airports such as Salt Lake City have been doing this for a while. If there's fog over the airport, they will seed above the fog bank, and it's been shown that it either drizzles out or it snows out and it clears for a period of time. But for our intents and purposes, we do not seed stratus clouds. These type of cumulus clouds, although they may eventually grow into the favorable clouds, they're not what we're going to go after. But we would watch these on any particular day to see if they're going to grow. These cumulonimbus clouds, we would seed these, but maybe not at this stage. We want to get them when they're a little bit smaller, when they're actually growing. So let's look at so far this year. We all know we've been in a pretty horrific drought. And I wanted to just quickly explain what's been going on. We've all heard about the jet stream and how it wiggles around the globe. And when we have it ridging over the top, we have high pressure. When it dips down, we have low pressure. And we want the low pressure to bring us rain. Well, what has happened is we've been in a stagnant pattern. Just imagine this lower left-hand guide right here, and where it says warm, imagine that's where Texas is, and that's where Texas has been. Normally, these waves will shift and move over the course of a couple days around the globe. They'll wiggle back and forth, but what has happened over North America is this pattern has set up and become stagnant. So what's happened is we've had a lot of rain over the west coast, we've had a lot of rain over the east coast, but this ridge has pretty much remained over the center of the United States, and as a result, all the storms have been passing to the north of us. This pattern, until it breaks, we're not going to see much rain. Now, it briefly did change the latter half of September into the first part of October. Unfortunately, it looks like it's trying to set up again, and I'm sure you've all heard that La Nina is forecast to return this winter, and more than likely that will occur, and that means we're going to have, unfortunately, a warm and dry winter. But that doesn't mean it's going to be dry the whole time. There may be periods where we have wetter weather, but over the long haul, it's going to end up being a drier winter. Now, as a result of this stagnant pattern, we have not been very active. In the normal course of a year, we will have maybe 40 to 45 days where we are able to conduct cloud seeding operations successfully. This year, and this is through September, and we have had nothing in October yet that we've been able to seed, we've only had 25 days of seeding, so we're only a little more than half of what we normally would seed. We've had just under 50 flights, and what's in parentheses there is recon flights. In other words, we've gone up and looked, but we have not conducted any seeding. So we're below there. Flight hours, 86, we should be double that. And the amount of flares we've used, 533 plus 26 salt flares, that also should be doubled by this time in the season. So we have been a victim of this weather pattern as well. Over the course of our program, this legend, the blue is seed days, maroon is total flights, and the green is recon flights. You see there seems to be sort of a wave-like pattern to our operations. We tend to have, we're right now kind of going through a minimum, but over the next couple of years, more than likely, we'll start seeing more activity, so we'll be busier. But that's pretty much how our operations have run over the past 13, 14 years. As far as rainfall to date, I just thought it'd be interesting to show this. The legend here on the side is in inches. This is the observed as of yesterday, and you see here in Karnes County, the extreme western, the extreme eastern have seen more than 10 inches, but 10 to 15. Well, how does that compare to the normal? As far as the percent of normal up to this date, we're only running 25 to 50% of normal. So we're way behind. We are way behind in what's going on. Now let's look at the state, and in fact other states beyond. This also is the total precipitation year to date, and there is the color scheme there in inches. There's been more rain to the east, but as you'll see here in a minute, does that necessarily mean they're faring any better? Not necessarily. This is the deficit in inches, and again there's the color coding here. So Southeast Texas has actually been faring worse than we have in this drought because their deficit is much larger as far as total rainfall. And this extends into Louisiana, Oklahoma, and to a lesser degree over into New Mexico. So it's not just here where we're feeling the effects of the drought. This is across a good portion of the southern U.S. In fact, even over into Georgia and parts of Florida, they're going through an exceptional drought as well. And then the percent of normal shown here, some portions of West Texas until about a month ago had less than an inch of rain for the whole year. But this is why it's important to have a program like what we have in place. While it's true, during a drought, we're not going to have as many clouds to work with, you have to look at this in a long-term, it's a water management tool. We want to try and get whatever we can out of these clouds year after year so that when we do hit times like now, if we have been able to put more water into the reservoirs, into the lakes, into the groundwater, we have that to draw from versus what we had done no seeding. Now this here, I'll go through this really quickly. Every year we get our radar data analyzed where we compare the seeded clouds to the clouds we didn't see. This is done on radar and also utilizes rain gauge data. So we seeded 113 clouds last year. They're broken down into three groups: small clouds, large clouds, and type B. I don't think it's really important at this point to differentiate them. Basically, the radar analysis shows that small clouds of all the clouds seeded together produce an additional 52,665 acre-feet of water across the entire target area. The large clouds produced over 277,000 acre-feet, and the type B, these are just clouds that were seeded after they are an hour old, 150,000 acre-feet. So for the entire target area, cloud seeding produced an additional 480,000 acre-feet. Now this is over the entire target area, and actually 23,326 more acre-feet fell outside the target area, generally to the east. Now, as far as Karnes County, the seeding produced an additional just a little under 40,000 acre-feet of water. And as far as the cost effectiveness, I wanted to show 4 of the programs, 2 in South Texas, 1 in West Texas, and 1 in the Panhandle. Here's the annual budget, and this was in 2010, and this was the acre-feet produced by seeding. So you can see the cost per acre-foot of water is relatively cheap, 54 cents. We're actually the most expensive, but you go to the Panhandle, well, they get larger storms, so their return is a lot bigger. 17 cents per acre-foot of water. Okay, I want to finish off. I apologize for taking too much time. I want to show you a case from earlier this year. We did some seeding in Karnes and Wilson counties. Basically, we had a disturbance over East Texas, throwing out a couple waves of showers and thunderstorms that headed towards our target area. So we had a plane go up and look at some clouds and conduct some seeding, and the results showed that 1/4 inch to 2 inches of rain fell, primarily in Wilson County north of Floresville, and we haven't analyzed this day yet. But I imagine the seeding in Wilson County particularly did very well. Sometimes when we see clouds in close proximity to each other, they join up and form clusters. And that's the most ideal setup, is to get these clusters because they tend to last a lot longer and travel a lot further. So what you're going to look at, just to get you oriented, there's Karnes County right here, there's Kennedy. The plane is going to actually take off. We have a plane based out of Kennedy, and he's going to fly around here and over here. And just to get the color scheme here is shows the rainfall intensity. The higher you go up on the scale, so when you get into the yellows and the reds, the rainfall is more intense. And kind of how that works. The radar sends out a beam. The more droplets that the radar beam bounces off, that indicates a more intensity. So it's going to show up brighter colors. So the next image I'm going to show, it's actually going to show the flight during that day and the radar, how the radar changes over time. The time steps are about 5 minutes apiece, so I'll just let you watch that. So he starts up there, and he's going to eventually end up in this area here. And he's going to seed several of these clouds. And over here, some of them are going to merge together to form one larger cluster. So this total movie lasts about 3.5 hours. Okay, I'll play it one more time. So he starts off here. Some of these clouds don't last too long, but the ones over here do really well. And there's another cloud here that puts out a good amount of precipitation. This one here seems to be the winner of the day. It does really well. And then by this time the sun has gone down, yet these clouds are still producing precip. Eventually, with the loss of heating, all these clouds are going to dissipate.
Like that deal there, how long does that plane stay in the air?
The plane was in the air for just a little under 2 hours, I believe. This map here shows the rainfall totals as estimated by radar. This is in millimeters, but essentially anything in yellow is 1 inch. Anything in red is 2 inches or more. And there's one spot here, it's actually hail contaminated. That's in Gonzales County. It's showing it's 4 inches. But again, hail will contaminate these true totals. So basically you see here in Karnes, there's one spot near Gillette that got over 1 inch. And this area here got about 1/2 to 3/4, but it was these clouds here that did really well, producing over 2 inches of rain in a couple of spots. This is what we try to get every time we go up. It doesn't always happen. It just depends on the environmental conditions for the day. But we do get situations like this happening a lot more frequently as a result of the seeding, particularly where we can see several clouds close together to form clusters. And with that, I'll conclude. If you want to find out more information, there's two websites, weathermodification.org, and then our website, which actually shows a live feed of our radar, southtexasweathermodification.com. And with that, I'll conclude. If there are any questions. All right. Thank you.
I'm going to let you live. Number 7 on the agenda is to...
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna ask Tom something. Todd, like on those clouds, if you don't go up there and seed them, when do they eventually drop the rainfall? Or do they, or they just keep the rainfall up there? Or?
Well, we're going to go after clouds that we know are going to produce precipitation. So as I mentioned before, it's not a matter of creating rain from nothing. We're trying to go after the best clouds that we know are going to produce rain. We're trying to increase their efficiency. From the moment of seeding to the time that things start happening, it varies, but on average 30 to 40 minutes.
Sure, they start dropping.
Yeah, it doesn't happen immediately. If you have a cloud with a very strong updraft, it can happen as quickly as 20 minutes. Otherwise, your average garden variety shower or storm takes about 30 to 40 minutes before the rainfall from seeding actually starts falling from the cloud.
I assume that plane has instruments to gauge where that updraft is.
Yes, yeah, they have a vertical speed indicator. So when they get close to the cloud and all of a sudden they start lifting, they look to see how quickly they're rising. And when it gets at least 300, then that's a suitable enough speed for seeding. But some of the stronger storms, they'll be going up at 2,000 feet per minute. So sometimes they can have quite an interesting ride when they go up.
You look the way I feel.
This has been like a battle.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
What's the relationship between acre feet and inches of rain?
For Karnes County, that 30.
I mean, any place. In other words, we get
You'd
everything
have
on
to.
the rain
Well,
gauge.
okay, I really can't tell you other than with the case of Karnes where it was 30. I think it was 39,000 acre feet. If you average that over the entire county, that's exactly 1 inch. But you have to keep in mind that the rainfall didn't fall uniformly over the
Oh, I
county.
know that, yeah.
But that's, at least as far as Karnes County, it came out to exactly 1 inch.
All right, the next item on the agenda is number 7, to discuss, approve, disapprove the Karnes County Premium Only Plan effective 10/1/11 and allow execution upon approval, and that's 5.
Basically what this is we call it the cafeteria plan, where we take the premiums out before we do the taxes on it. It's just something that the Commissioners Court has to approve to do. There's the last page is like a resolution, everybody has to sign it. We've done it before, it's just we can announce it at principal.
Premium for what? Health insurance?
If you buy it from an insurance personally for yourself, your dental, vision, it's whatever, if you want to, you don't have to.
Elective premium.
Elective premium.
5, there's 1 page for you. The page before the last page, who's buys that one? I know there's 2. There's one's the resolution and then...
Oh, you could probably sign it. It's just a witness, because the employer has caused this plan to be executed.
I make a motion to approve the Karnes County Premium Plan only effective 10/1/11, allow execution upon approval.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Guys, you all sign that. I'll be the clerk's office before you leave, please. Yes, sir. Number 8 is to discuss, approve, disapprove the TCDRS 2012 plan, year rate of 13.22 effective January 1st, 2012, and allow execution upon approval, and that's all.
Every year, we have to approve the new percentage rate for the county's contribution, for the employer contribution, and it's 13.22% this year. And it's gone up from 12.41 from now.
I make a motion to approve the TCDRS 2012 plan, year rate of 13.22% effective January 1, 2012, and allow execution upon approval.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Vi, do I need to check one of the box? Checks the 1322,
Yes.
number 3?
Yes.
What? Wait a second, that one. Come here for a second, Vi.
Would you not do adopt a cost of living? Zero, so it'll be 13. It'll be zero, that's zero. So, yeah.
Carl, you put the nest down. That one, Carl, that one. Just take a stack, because you'll be the last one.
You want me to just keep it there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Just make a
You
stack.
signed that.
All right.
Plan.
Thank you, Vi. The next item on the agenda is to discuss, approve, disapprove changing the following pay days due to holidays. The first, November 11th, and November 10th. Checks available 11/19 after 3 p.m. Direct deposit 11/10. November 25th and November 23rd. Checks available November 22nd after 3 p.m. Direct deposit November 23rd. December 23rd and December 22nd. Checks available after December 21st after 3 p.m. Direct deposit December 22nd, and that's 5.
We just do this every year because of the holidays. We just have to, the commissioners court to approve to change the pay dates on it, because of when the holiday falls. November 11th is Veterans Day, and we're closed for that. Thanksgiving Day, we're closed half a day on Wednesday, and then on the 23rd and 26th, I think. So we just have to change those.
Make a motion to approve the changes on item number 9.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 10 on the agenda is to discuss, approve, disapprove purchase of Hill Country software and support for the Sheriff's Office. The total initial cost is $47,150 plus 3 years maintenance at $17,100. The initial acceptance of payment is $9,790, and the remainder to be paid in 36 monthly payments of $1824.41 a month, and that's you, Sheriff. It's in here, guys. HCSS right here. Software support. That's it.
This is something, we're on Tyler Technology. I'm set up with LaWanna and Ms. Frankie, I believe Vi down here. Something they put in place 13, 14 years ago at least. And that runs my computers, and runs my dispatch office, and runs everything. Since we talked about this for over years and years and years, everybody else in the new building is on Hill Country software. So this would loop us in with all the entities, so we can all be on the same page instead of being Tyler Technologies sits alone by itself. I cannot go into their files to see court dispositions or anything like this. They can't come into my area to see who's in jail. So this is what we're trying to do. I talked to Tyler Technology this morning. They said there wouldn't be no problem. I talked to Hill Country. Everybody in that new office, including my jail, will be on Hill Country software. We started this out 7 or 8 years ago. I was trying to jump on to Hill Country. We never could get there because it's in the tune of $150,000 to $200,000. They've come down to this now. Less than $50,000.
Is this in the budget? So would this have to be an amendment?
How much is it? 40?
Well, it said $47,150 initial cost.
No, well, if you look at the overall bill, the total cost is $54,460. But when you break it down, we broke it down for you the way that they broke it down on the bill. So if we were gonna do this, do we have to capture an amendment?
Do for a fact.
But that would have to be on another agenda,
Right.
because that's not on this agenda, it's just to make this transfer, and then the next agenda we would amend.
Okay. So if we approve it, we can amend it on the next agenda? Let me make myself a note that we need to do that.
Yeah, don't forget the.
Yeah, this ties in the district clerk, the county clerk, I think the JP, and be the sheriff's department, the JP here in the new annex.
So we're gonna make a motion to approve.
How is that going to qualify to amend the budget?
Emergency.
It's not an emergency.
I have to agree.
Necessity.
Why, his office is operational.
The total amount paid now will not be $50,000.
It still has to be budgeted. You don't have to go out for.
The only
bids
thing
and
we
stuff like
have in the budget right now is the software support for fiscal year 2012 to Tyler Technologies,
That's $12,000 a year.
17,000.
Okay, set it down, missing the 5. So we still under that, right? If we do 9,790 and 1,824 a month, we're gonna be under that?
Yeah, but you can't break it down into
that. That's just for going out
segments
for bids.
to get under the bids.
Right.
Correct.
The money still has to be budgeted.
Okay,
But we're talking about two different things. If you spend money over 50,000, you gotta go out for bids.
okay.
So we don't have to do that, but we still have to have it budgeted.
Well, it's more than 50,000, the total cost.
But not what's gonna be paid out this year.
But still, the total
That's
cost
good.
is more than
It's
50,000.
more than 50,000. That's right. Doubly right.
So we would have to budget it all in one time or 3
We're
times?
Probably gonna have to go out for bids.
How would it,
Can you stay where you are for a while, Sheriff?
What, in the courthouse? Oh, yeah, I mean,
Why would he want to go out for bids? What he's trying to do is integrate his system with everybody else's system.
Because it's spending over
And this
$50,000.
only one company has everybody else's office, you know,
But the expenditure is still over 50,000.
I understand that, but I also I understand what he's trying to do and his ability, the other offices to look into who he's got in jail and how long they've been there, and it really makes sense.
You
to
can
be
do
more
that now,
efficient.
you just can't do it when you build it.
But he will be able to.
if I was on Hill Country, they could look at my jail system and see who I have in jail, and at the same time, I can look in their systems and see.
This is not
Make
the
us-
first time this has come
No.
up. Believe me, we had a knockdown, drag out when this first, Hill Country was first brought in.
It seems to make sense, don't you?
Well, I mean, there again, our server, we've had that trouble before, our server's down at the annex, not the new one, the old one. And when it goes down, I think the only one that had access was that, Luana and Darlene and Miss Frank.
Not Luana.
Okay, I remember something about Luana, I think I called you one night, but we didn't have no computer system at my jail.
So, not only that, Sheriff, but if the electricity goes out at the jail and at the annex, you're still down.
Not at the jail, I've got a generator.
Yeah, but you don't have your service, so you really are crippled.
But that's not the issue at Point.
No.
The issue at Point is, yes, I agree, we need to get him on the other system, but it's not budgeted. And the total expenditure to make the transition is more than $50,000, so it has to go out for bids, even if we only have one bid from the providing software.
It has to go out for bids, I guess, and then you have to pick whoever you want it ever went out for bids. So we have to discuss it now.
You went out for bids, but you're only gonna have one bidder.
Well, you might want to consider rebidding the whole thing.
That's true. Well, we won't be integrated with Hill Country, won't be
You
integrated with
will,
everybody else.
you will if you build out the whole thing. In other words, for one system that would cover the whole thing. You're still going to have two systems, right?
Well, that'd be changing software, that'd be changing all kinds of stuff, wouldn't it?
Just, the simplest thing is you're just gonna have to go out for bid, Sheriff.
Okay,
You're just
so
gonna do
I
the
just-
advertisement,
formality.
exactly, go out for the bid, because it's over $50,000.
Okay. That'll work.
But you're not down. You still be able to.
No, this is kind of where we at. We got all the wires run, got everything ran to the new office, we got everything. Like I said, when I do this, I have to do it like in a hurry, because when I start pulling from one company to another company, the dispatch is down. That's what I'm trying to do. I got all the wires sticking in the air right now. This is what I'm trying to do.
So you'll be on software.
Be on Tyler Technologies
He will.
currently.
Is Tyler
Just get it ready,
Technologies-
Sheriff. Get your thing ready to go out for bids and just go out.
Is the same, is that the same as?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right, number 11 is to discuss, approve, disapprove, excuse me?
No action.
No action, I'm sorry. Number 10 is going to be no action, and you're going to go out for bids, right?
Yes.
Thanks, Carl, I'm sorry. Okay, number 11 is to discuss, approve, disapprove the payment of 8-channel GeoVision surveillance system, initial payment of 50%, remaining 50% completion, total cost $6,156, and that's you again, Sheriff.
That budget?
That's this ICS thing.
Okay. Is that budget?
Yes, it's in the building. We got it in the building, in the new annex. We had this budget a long time ago, at 6,156. This is for the 8 cameras that we're putting up in the new building. This been budgeted. They had a system where we're monitored from the jail 24 hours a day, the new building, vice versa. I can look at the new building 24 hours a day, be recorded in my office, plus look at the jail, what's going on in the jail.
Look at Geo also.
Not jail.
The
Just
jail.
the jail.
The jail, my jail. So, Karnes County Jail, I keep saying my jail because I deal with all the problems all the time. Karnes County Jail.
You can have it.
Okay.
Sheriff, with a system like this, can you pull it up on your laptop or?
No, sir, this is not wireless, it's hardwired. We talked about it to the tune of about $20-some-odd thousand. We could run around with Wi-Fi, but we can't do that. We went the cheapest route again.
And so this is budgeted.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of 8-channel GeoVision surveillance system, initial payment of 50% and remaining 50% at completion. Total cost $6,156.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank
Any
y'all.
opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda, number 12, is to discuss, approve, disapprove the engagement letter with Thompson, Williams, Beaufort, Castor, and Young for the independent auditor's services for Karnes County's fiscal year ending 9/30/11. That's Luana.
We received our engagement letter for those services, and they want to start tomorrow, so it'd be real nice if y'all approve this.
And we all, if we approve it, we all amend it to say that I can execute, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the engagement letter with Thompson's, Williams, Bider, Castor, Young, LC for the independent auditor services for Karnes County fiscal year ended 9/30/11, and authorize the county judge to sign such document.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Carl, would you take your step, please? The next item on the agenda is number 13. It says, observe and duly file in the records of Commissioners Court the salary and orders for Luana S. Castrick, County Auditor, $45,972.60. Michelle Solias, First Assistant County Auditor, $29,125.67. And Leanna K. Martin, Assistant County Auditor, $20,800 for Karnes County's fiscal year 2012 budget, which is October 11 to September 12, and that's Luana. Just wanted them noted on record.
And Carol, you
You
already
said
got
about
copies.
Mr.
What
Judge.
did we do with this before? We just came before September. Was that
Yeah, but
the-
after all of our raises changed, they all got bigger raises. So we have to
Are we
read it.
budgeted for this?
Yes, it's included in the budget. It's just an official observance by the court, what y'all observed in September with our appointment, our reappointments.
I'll make a motion. Sound good?
I don't think we need a motion. She just wants acknowledgement. Okay, number 14 on the agenda is to discuss, approve, disapprove the interlocal agreement between the City of Kennedy, Texas Escondido Watershed District, Karnes County, Texas Karnes County Hospital District, and the San Antonio River Authority relating to reinvestment zone number 2, the City of Kennedy, Texas, and authorize the county judge to execute if approved, and that's from Ford. Alana, did I give you a copy of that?
No.
And I should have, I'm sorry. This is the, I'll let you, can she borrow one of y'all? Can you come back up, Luana? Is this approved? I guess it's in the budget. This is the same thing Ford gives us every year that we do. You said we did it last year, that everybody did it last year. And he had talked to. percentages are broke down up front. Can I see your James? I'll tell you what they are if I read them. For Karnes County, it's 75% of annual general fund, 80% of ad valorem taxes. Specific excludes Karnes County Roads Ridge. And this is for the zoned ordinance.
But this is not anything that we put in the budget.
They're just asking for it after we get it.
Then that would involve Ms. Frankie and her distribution of taxes.
Have you seen this, Miss Frankie? No, I haven't. I got this from Ford and
We haven't had the reinvestment for the turf in effect before.
it hasn't been in effect? Sorry, I misunderstood that. So what do we need to do with this?
I could table it and get some information on it, detailed information, not approve something that's been handed to us at the last minute.
You want to take that and read it, Miss Frankie?
Don't table it.
We'll just take no action, and we can put it back on the agenda. It's not a,
Table it, consider it now.
right. I just got that in a packet from Ford. Miss Frankie and Luana, y'all just want to read that? That's my copy. That's the only copy we have, so I'm trusting y'all with it, okay?
After the meeting, we'll have her make a copy for us.
Okay. Either that or you can take that and read it. I trust you.
Are you going to table this?
We're going to take no action.
No action. Okay.
Okay, number 15 is to discuss, approve, disapprove the schedule of signage for the new annex located at 210 West Calvert as submitted by Don Kruger Construction Company. This must be done in order to be in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act and the author's Pete Gower. And Pete brought this to me, so you want to go ahead, Pete? I mean, I know what it is too. I've been talking to him, but go ahead.
All right, we considered possible problem of having 200 East Calvert Street and 200 West Calvert Street. So we talked to Jimmy Lawyer and we agreed to make that 210 West Calvert since it was down the way hill a little bit, and came up with the numbers for the suites in there with the 2 number, the same as the mailing address. And Chris Michalik with Kruger said, yeah, that'd be all right. So we approved the 201, 202, 203, or whatever they are down the hall. Now, come up, Chris says, no, this confuses our whole system. We have a system in the whole building with the 100 numbers, and there need to be 100 numbers. So we'll get all the rest of the doors had right and had the braille on them and all this stuff. So we need to go back to those numbers, suite numbers for the offices. We can't put suite 201, 202, etc. in there, as we approved here a couple of weeks ago.
And Chris Michalik was there the day that we went through when Jimmy Lawyer was with us, and everybody thought those numbers were okay. But then when he went back and talked to Don Kruger, and then Mr. Vogel got involved, he said, no, those aren't okay, because each door in the annex is going to have a label on the door, and just as we see it, we're going to have to put the braille lettering so those with disabilities can see it. And so each number is going to be different. So we have to go back and change it to meet the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I know that might pose a problem for you guys that have already changed your address and have changed some stuff. And we apologize, but Chris didn't know it and we didn't know it either. And I did call Jimmy Loya, and he said if you guys are willing just to fill out another change of address form, he'll work with you guys to change this.
We have to rescind our prior decision. We did.
I don't know if we need to rescind it or if we just need to.
Modify it.
So
Capture that in the motion.
just should we say approve the new suite numbers? How do we say that, Mr. Buster?
Approve the new suite number as per the post office. Who asked for it? Post office?
Kruger and Vogel to meet ADA accessibility, because the way we have them numbered is not going to meet ADA accessibility.
Then you have to just do that as per the contract. You got the information from the contract, correct?
Yes.
That's why you're making the change.
Yes.
So just put that in your motion, that is because of the ADA requirement.
Pete, like on that Braille deal, probably needs to be down low enough where a person in a wheelchair can do it. I've seen them put it up high and then they have to go back and redo it.
I'm sure it'll be lower.
They sent a deal what the signage was gonna be.
It has to be a certain height.
They have all kinds of measurements, all kinds of,
Because I've seen that happen in other buildings.
So is the numbers wrong? I don't understand why it's not ADA compliant the way y'all have it now.
because there's so many doors in there, when they go around counting some of the doors, the numbers would overlap. We thought the same thing we had the exact same question you did. We sit there, and it starts making sense when he starts walking through and pointing it out to you, and once you read all the emails.
Well, if someone goes down there and they feel it, say, well, this is 201, we're at 107. You know, in other words, they can go down and find this, and they can figure out, according to the schedule, where the next number would be, which side of the hall it would be on.
It's just not meeting ADA criteria.
So y'all weren't all in the 200 already? Or one?